Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Welcome from Expo MediWeed in Medellin, Colombia. We're down here, we have a speaking engagement to talk about how we legalized marijuana in the United States and how hemp can save the planet with fuel, fiber, food, and medicine. So it's been an exciting 4-day conference. It's the first cannabis conference in Colombia, the newly established peace treaty ending the 53-year civil war here. So Medellin is one of the most beautiful cities on earth. It's right near the equator. If you have time, it's a very safe and wonderful visit here to Medellin, Colombia.
Amen.
Hola amigos, nos encontramos en Expo MediWeed, la primera feria internacional de cannabis medicinal en Colombia. Uso industrial, uso medicinal y uso terapéutico de cannabis. En la apertura de Expo MediWeed, la primera feria internacional de cannabis medicinal, estamos a la expectativa de hacer un gran evento en la ciudad de Medellín, donde hemos traído 15 expositores, 15 conferencistas de talla internacional. Donde contamos con la presencia de Cristina Sánchez, de Mara Gordon, de Gisela Kuzler, del Dr. Marcelo Morante. Y bueno, tenemos un grupo importante de activistas como Mike Dispari y Mara Emily. También viene el señor Paul Stanford, que nos viene a hablar de biodiesel y del tema industrial de cannabis medicinal. Estos son los chicos que consumen cannabis medicinal en Colombia. Niñas como Luna son las que me hacen a mí trabajar para este tipo de cosas y traer este conocimiento a mi país. Estamos a la expectativa de que mucha gente venga a adquirir el conocimiento a Expo MediWeed y bueno, tenemos muchas ganas de hacer las cosas bien.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you ready? Okay. My name is Mark Emery. I am doing some exciting things in Canada. I sell a lot of weed every day, and it's all illegal in Canada. And my history is since 1990, back in Canada when everything was illegal. Books and magazines about marijuana were illegal. Seeds were illegal. There was no medical marijuana. There was nothing. There was no industrial hemp. It was a complete prohibitionist state in Canada. So I came up with this revolutionary idea that I would simply do what I thought ought to be in Canada, and if I got arrested or if I went to jail, then that would be fine. That would be part of the program. I would set a good example for people, saying that you shouldn't be afraid to go to jail if you are doing it for a good cause, and you explain to people that you are doing it for this reason. And so I have been in 34 different prisons and jails for marijuana. I have been arrested 28 times. I have been in 6 prisons in the United States, in 6 different US states. I have been in jails and prisons in 8 of Canada's 10 provinces. And in fact, many times I have provoked them. For example, in my summer legalization tour in 2003, I smoked a bomb in front of all the major police stations across Canada. And of course, many of them did in fact arrest me and put me in jail overnight. But it was mostly to draw attention to these absurd laws and the fact that they should not exist. But more importantly, I have been trying to create the environment through sheer force of will by just doing what I thought a legal environment would look like. So in 1990, when the government said all books and magazines like High Times, the government said this is all illegal. You can't have any of this. You can't have bombs, you can't have pipes. And they actually made it so that it was a $100,000 fine, up to $100,000 Canadian dollars, which is like about 50 million Colombian pesos today, just for selling a book about marijuana. And but what I did is I would go to jail many times for other things. I've been in prison, 34 prisons and jails just for marijuana. In my civil disobedience, I have gone to jail for other things, like the right to open our stores on Sunday. I went to jail for that. And the government tried to ban some music by rap groups. They said it was obscene and I would sell that. And they didn't put me in jail for that, but they did arrest me and take me to court. And so I have this history of challenging these laws that I think are very bad by simply behaving in the way that I believe it should be if it were legal. So now, because we in Canada, by the way, the Parliament in Canada has never changed the law in 25 years. But 25 years ago, everything was forbidden. Bombs, pipes, books, magazines, marijuana, there was no medical, there was no industrial, there was nothing. Now in Canada, we have an enormous industrial hemp industry growing tens of thousands of hectares of marijuana seeds for food. And we have a medical program that every Canadian is allowed to be part of, and they can grow their marijuana at home. All books and magazines now are permitted. We have a very advanced state of marijuana technology in Canada. We grow more weed for a country of our size than any other country on earth. Spain is growing a lot of weed, and the United States grows a lot of weed. Even Colombia and Mexico grow a lot of weed, but no one grows as much weed as we do in Canada. Canada is a very, very big country. I think Colombia, you could put 20 Colombias into Canada, just to give you an idea of this size. And everywhere we are growing a lot of marijuana. But the law hasn't actually changed at all. Parliament has never changed the law in 25 years. So all of these changes that are now wonderful changes are happening because people refuse to obey the government. And therefore the courts have been ruling in our favor. Public opinion, when I started in 1990, only 1 in 6 people wanted to legalize marijuana. Now it is 75%. A huge majority of Canadians want to legalize marijuana. So the biggest problem is now we have elected a government who says they will legalize marijuana. But their idea of legalizing marijuana, as always, is different from my idea of legalizing. Their idea of legalizing, and this will be a problem we have with all governments, their idea of legalization, because you must remember, the only purpose of government is to control the people of that country. It's true and it's sad that government exists in a state of civil war with its people, even at the best of times. You know, we often say that government exists with the consent of the governed. It exists with the consent of the citizens. But if that were really true, the government would never need to pass a law because we would all agree. And for most things, we do agree. We agree that no one should hurt us. We agree no one should steal from us. No one should harm our property. And that if we have disputes, we would do this in a civilized manner in a court. These things almost all people agree. But after that, we don't all agree on everything. And therefore, whenever government passes a law, it's always, in every case, designed to control the people. So the government never wants to give freedom to people. It's against their interests, and it is against their instincts. Their instinct is to regulate us, to control us, to tell us how we will live. And our instinct as individuals is to rebel against this control and pursue freedom and peace and our own autonomy. We want to pursue our life as we see fit, with as little control from others as possible. This is the goal of all human struggle, is individual freedom. So the government in Canada says, yes, we will legalize marijuana, but we will control it. You will not be allowed to grow this plant in your home. We will have big business and big corporations, they will grow this marijuana, and you can buy it from them with a lot of taxes and an artificially high price. And we will give them licenses, and they will obey the government, and then they will be cooperative with the government. So the government is trying to usurp our culture. For 50 years in Canada, we have grown a lot of marijuana, and we have sold it, and we have distributed it, and 2 million Canadians have criminal records for this activity. Hundreds of thousands of people in Canada, including myself, have gone to jail. I will say this though, Canadians are probably more willing to go to jail for marijuana than any other culture I have been in. Because when I go to Thailand, or even when I speak to Americans, or in Mexico, they're not very excited to go to jail. To me, I think going to jail is a wonderful thing. It's, first of all, as a leader of people, I should always feel comfortable with the outcasts and the marginalized and the poor people. If you're a leader of people and you are uncomfortable around poor people or people in prison, you shouldn't be a leader of people. So for me, it's a very good demonstration that I would not ask you to do anything I would not and have not done myself. And I think going to prison can be very redemptive and very rewarding, and I have in the 5 years I was in the United States prisons, I almost never heard an unkind word said to me. Now, in a way, I am also predicting the future, because I am selling a lot of weed in my store in downtown Toronto. Toronto is Canada's biggest city, and I am in one of the busiest, most popular neighborhoods, and I have a big store called Cannabis Culture, and all we do all day long is sell marijuana, entirely illegally. And the reason I do this is because my slogan is, this is what legalization looks like. Ordinary Canadian men and many employees getting very well paid, and we have 1,100 people on average every day come into our shop. There are lineups all day long from just this community, and we sell $20,000, $30,000, $35,000 in marijuana every day, and we collect the taxes for the government. But I have to hide them because every day I am fearful the police will come and they will raid us. Because we have 15 stores in Canada called Cannabis Culture, and they are owned by individuals, different people, and we are all breaking the law. And we are all setting this example for other Canadians of what legalization looks like. You should just be 19 years of age, and then you are good. You walk into a store, we have 35 different kinds of marijuana. And you pick the marijuana you want, and it goes from anywhere from $5 Canadian a gram to $12.50 a gram. That's approximately $4 US to about $9 US a gram. And it is the best quality. When people come in, I say, this is the best weed in Canada. You will not find better weed. If you do find better weed, come to me, I will give your money back. No one ever gets their money back. No one ever asks. They agree, this is the best weed that they have ever smoked. Because we grow a lot of weed in Canada, and we are very good at it, and I know all these people after all these years. So far I have been in business 80 days of not being busted. But even if we are arrested, we will open the next day and we will continue. And this has happened many times before. For other cannabis cultures, we have been raided at many of our locations. And we get the people out of jail the next day, and we pay for their legal fees. They don't have to pay for their lawyer, we pay for their lawyer. And our lawyers are quite convinced that they will never be convicted because the government says they are going to legalize in 4 months. And the courts are saying, well, why are people still being arrested? It doesn't make any sense. The judges, they understand, after 50 years of seeing all these marijuana people, and they're good people, and we're honest people, and we're very politically oriented, they are tired of sending people to jail for marijuana. They don't want to see it anymore. They want this finished. And our Constitution in Canada has an equality provision, which means you cannot have 2 standards of law or freedom in one country. Everyone must be treated the same before the law. Our argument is, if the government is giving licenses to people to grow it, they cannot make this exclusive. We must all be able to grow. It cannot be legal for some and illegal for others. And just like the medical problems, the medical people can grow in their home, but people who use it just to stay in good health cannot grow it in their home. This kind of duality will not exist under our law. But the government always ignores this. They pay no attention to the courts. Usually they continue in their way of controlling people. So I have a store and I have 9 people all selling marijuana at the same time. It's so busy. It is such a popular thing that everyone comes in and they shake my hand. You know, no one else, you go into a shop to buy something. You don't shake his hand and say you are so happy that he exists to be kind. All day long, people are saying, this is beautiful, Mark, this is how it should be. And yes, this is what legalization looks like. No problems, no regulations, no interference between me, the grower, and the buyer. Just very simple. Now, we get our buds tested in a laboratory every day. We send all the new buds to a laboratory and we get the test back 24 hours later. And our customers can see it, everything about the weed they buy. They can see the THC, the CBD content. They know if there was any mold or mildew or pesticides. They know if anything has been added. There's a complete analysis of everything we sell available for people to observe and to read. Now this is, for me, I do this only for the media and for the government. Because the government says, oh well, you could be poisoning the people. They don't know what they are getting. And I say, yes, they do because I test everything. First of all, I know these growers, they are men of integrity. If they were selling me things that the public was not liking, I would not buy it. So it is always perfect, it's always really good. These are, the marijuana industry, in my experience, is one of the most dependable, reliable, and trustworthy groups. You know, even when I'm here though, I talked to a person selling hydroponic equipment for inside the house. Now, all the weed I have smoked until last night in Colombia has been outdoor weed. And it's really good. I loved it, it's been awesome. And if it had pesticides, I would get a headache. I would taste it, I would know. I've seen weed from everywhere in the world, I've smoked everywhere, and I have a good sense of what is in this weed, and the weed is wonderful. I haven't had bad weed. So I'm listening to this person selling equipment saying, oh, most of the weed in Colombia is very bad because they spray pesticides on it. And I'm thinking, that is not my experience. I think that is probably not true. And you were saying that so you can sell this equipment inside the house, and it's good for your business. But really, people who love marijuana and who are conscious about marijuana, they don't do that to their plants. And I have every confidence that when I buy my marijuana, and I sell about 10 pounds every day, to over 1,000 people buy about 10 pounds of marijuana from me every day. And again, it's all illegal. But you see, this doesn't. And I probably will be arrested soon, and you will be the people that I would say. So maybe in the next month, you know, for a Christmas present, maybe they will say, Mark Henry, you like jail so much, we have a really nice one for you. I'm sure it's quite possible, right? In my country, they will be a bit embarrassed because the last time the government did something to me, they sent me to the United States for 5 years. And this was considered very unpopular, very much a traitorous behavior by the government, which was voted out, and the government we supported was elected, the government who promised to legalize marijuana. But it is true, we participate in politics a great deal in Canada, and sometimes good things happen. But you can never trust them anyway. Even though I voted for the guy, actually the Prime Minister and I have smoked marijuana together. He hates it when I say this. Right? But most major leaders of the political parties in Canada I have met, and many I have smoked marijuana. Right? Now, I normally wouldn't mention that, but he's acting like he admits he's smoked marijuana too, but he just doesn't admit he smoked it with me because I am a notorious lawbreaker, and that would look improper perhaps. But here is this man who has smoked marijuana, and he is doing all these things for the control of our culture and our industry, and I refuse to permit this. So I have started this campaign in Canada called "This Is What Legalization Looks Like," and it's ordinary Canadians making edibles or growing weed and selling it, and not even paying attention if it's illegal. Just go ahead. So we have markets that show up in the middle of the street for a whole day. Nobody is selling marijuana and vaporizers and pens and shatter and oils and foods and stuff. And by the time the authorities find out, it's too late. 2 days have gone by. But in the case of we have many expos and conferences, and there's much smoking and selling of marijuana going on, and we have the public is in favor. The public wants this. This is the big problem for the police and for the authorities, is that when you come to my shop, you see people, mostly older people, over 30 years old, 30 to 60 years old, and they're lined up happily to buy my marijuana, that my 9 happy employees who get, on average, about $30 an hour to work, because they get a bonus. Actually, they get $15 an hour. But once we sell more than $25,000 in one day, they begin to get an escalating bonus. So if we sell $50,000 of marijuana in one day, which has happened twice on a Saturday, mostly we sell between $30,000 and $50,000 a day, they get a bonus. So if we sell $50,000, all 9 employees get $350 bonus, plus the $150 they would make. So they get $500, which by the way is 1 million Colombian pesos exactly, because that's how much I brought with me, $500 Canadian with it. So basically, on a really good day, my employees, 9 of them, all make 1 million Colombian pesos in one day, because there's only so much I can do with this money anyway. I don't live that importantly, so when I get the money, I give it away, or pay the government, or pay the employees, or somebody's getting this money, plus all the weed growers. But essentially, I try and include everybody in making money. And actually, that has always been my philosophy from the very beginning, that when I started, and I wanted to recreate our culture from nothing in Canada, because everything was forbidden, the first thing I said to people is we must all learn to become good business people, and we must be fearless. We must learn the power of money, and this is very important in Colombia as this industry gets going. Never underestimate the utility and power of money to do good things, and to accomplish good things, and to reward people who do good work. Many people get caught up in materialism. It's an easy seduction to be taken by. We all like comfortable places, and we like to eat well and go to nice restaurants and live and travel. All these things are possible with money, but the money I am talking about is money for our movement, money to give power to our own people, money so we can participate in the political process. So now I'm making lots of money selling this weed. While this is happening, I'm giving it to journalists and to people in our movement that I admire and think need to be supported, and other people who are holding conferences and conventions. I am trying to push my money in those directions. And this is a very important thing for everyone to acknowledge, that money is important, not so we can be comfortable, but so we can make the authorities uncomfortable. So we can use this to strike at the prohibition that keeps us from being fully free citizens. So that is what is going on in Canada. I have this shop doing this. We have 12 other cannabis culture shops in Vancouver and Toronto, and they are selling to everybody, and they are breaking the law, and they have been busted sometimes, and we just open the next day, and we carry on. We get the people out of jail, and then we keep doing it. And the authorities get very frustrated. It's costing them a lot of money. The public is against this. They are not shutting this down. So now that the city authority go to our landlord and threaten them, if you keep renting to this man who is breaking the law and he's selling marijuana, we will have to take you to court. So then I tell my landlord, listen, I will get your lawyer, I will pay whatever fines you get, don't worry about it, right? And then they come back and they say, well, then we will go to your bank that has this mortgage on this property, and we will tell them what is going on, and the bank says, what is going on? And so eventually it might be that a court order forces us to stop, but then we will go find another place. Because we can go to a landlord and say, listen, you want $5,000 rent, I will pay you much more if you will rent this place to me. And they like the money, and a lot of them don't like the authorities, so they go, okay, yeah, you can have this place and you can sell marijuana there. And actually in Canada we have about 500 medical shops selling marijuana medically, but it's illegal too. And that's a lot of places selling to people who are just medical. In Canada, anybody can become medical, it's very easy, but only 80, 90,000 people have done this. Canada has 33 million people, probably 5 to 6 million people smoke marijuana. So that means 70, 80,000 people have a medical card, but 5 million do not. So that is why our shops are very busy, because the medical places, they get one person maybe every 10, 20 minutes, and we get like 20 to 30 people every 10 minutes. So most Canadians do not want to be medical. They don't want to give their medical records to strangers. They don't think that it's necessary to lie, and we agree with them. So we provide this service in main streets in Vancouver and Hamilton and Toronto and soon Montreal, Ottawa, and many other cities. We are encouraging people to come and join with us and sell marijuana and make lots of money and create problems for authorities and spend this money on your employees and empower our people, right? And so far it's working out, because everywhere we go, people will say, I love this example of what you're doing, I think this is the appropriate way. And we collect the tax, but I refuse to collect a special tax. We collect the same value-added tax that is on all commodities. So if you buy a shirt or some shoes, you will pay this tax. So we will collect this tax, but I say we will not collect punishment taxes like they do for alcohol and tobacco. Because those are harmful things. They create a lot of problems in society. So the government can make some claim that we need these taxes from tobacco and alcohol because there is so much problem. But this is not true for cannabis. Cannabis people create no problems. We will not drive and cause crashes. We will not rape your daughters like the alcohol people. We will not become addicted like the heroin people or all these different drugs. Cannabis is not like any of these, and therefore we should not be punished. Furthermore, I am trying to say to the government, we can never negotiate with you until you apologize to us for arresting us, 2 million Canadians, and putting 700,000 people in jail. For example, even in Canada, I went to jail 3 months for passing one joint at a university after I was speaking. I was an invited speaker to this university. Afterwards, we went outside and smoked some joints, and a policeman came and he arrested me because he said, I saw you pass this joint. And so he put me in handcuffs, took me away. It took me 7 days to get bail. And then they put me in jail for 3 months. I thought it would be like $500. No, they put me in jail for 3 months. So these terrible things can happen in Canada. And essentially, I'm saying that we just will not tolerate it. No matter what program the government comes up with, I've said we will break whatever law you make until everyone has justice. When every Canadian can grow in the backyard or on their farm, then it is legal, I will accept this. When every Canadian can be participating in our industry, when you are allowed to have a shop to sell marijuana, or when you can go buy marijuana anywhere you want, or when you can grow marijuana on your farm without interference, just the same as if you were growing corn or cucumbers or coffee, then that is legal, and I will accept that. But until that time, I will do it my way, And this is the right way. This is what people want. That is why they spend their money with me. Never have I met so many people happy to give me money. Here, take my money. I'm so happy you are here. Right? And I'm thinking, yeah, I know. I'm happy to be here too. Because they also realize the risk. When they come into my shop, they realize, hey, we know you. Everyone knows you. Right? And thank you for going to jail all these times, because many people say, this is what has changed Canada. This is what happened. You just did it. You set this good example. Everyone agrees with you. And now they are also doing this example. And I teach people, don't be afraid of prison. You can be very busy. In prison, it's very rewarding. I always find if you are awake and healthy, then there is much to be gained by all experiences. And I was in America, and that was quite a trip. All in the South. I don't know if you understand the difference between the North and the South in America. But for example, the South voted for Trump. Okay, so that tells you, in a sense, that, they're still good people, because one thing, we have this word in America, Dawn will back this up, redneck. A redneck is, I don't know what the equivalent would be in Colombia. Right, people of the country, good old boys, but the thing is, they all smoke pot and grow weed too. Weed is grown by everybody. Rednecks grow weed. I meet them all the time in the country. I am drinking beer with them. I am sitting there. They all have a cat. They all work the farm. They all growing marijuana illegally too. So everybody is growing marijuana in Canada, and we should encourage this. And I do encourage it. I say, listen, you should be growing marijuana. You should be selling it. You grow the best marijuana. We are very proud in Canada. I met a man in Colombia. He says we grow the best weed in Colombia. And I said, okay, you're very charming and adorable for saying that, but the reality is, I would think California, Oregon, and British Columbia, I wouldn't even say Canada, I would say British Columbia, Canada, we grow the best weed in the world. It's actually, Spain is good too. Spain is growing great weed. Those are the 4 great places in the world. Even Amsterdam does not grow its own weed. It all comes from Spain, just like all of their seeds come from Spain. What's that? Czech Republic? Well, I went to Prague. I didn't think they had that. There was good weed, but there's not much of it. Right? Whereas in Canada, our weed is cheaper illegally than in Oregon or Washington or California legally. Their legal weed is more money than us, because we just produce huge quantities of it. And even then, I'm collecting the taxes as if it were legal. Because that's what I tell you. I said, even though you use my taxes to persecute me, to put me in jail, I still want to show you that I am sincere. And that this is how I would behave if it were entirely legal. I am not behaving any differently. I am there behind the counter. I am openly selling marijuana. I have tests from the laboratory. I give the government the taxes. Just like if we're legal. Many places that sell marijuana, they are not collecting the taxes. They say, why would I collect the taxes? Then the government will know what I am making. I said, well, you shouldn't care. You should be honest. You should collect this tax, and then you should tell them, if you bust me, and that's what I say, if you bust me and put me in jail, then you will lose all this money. And I will tell you, for the first 3 months, my business, first 3 months is over in a few days, and my taxes, I'm going to try and translate this into Colombia. We owe the government and we put it away, because if the police raid me and bust me, they will take this money, so I can't pay the tax. So I have to hide this money, like dig it in the ground, put it in the boxes in the ground, and then when it's time to pay the tax, I will go get it, right? So the police can't get it. But we will probably pay them $250,000 Canadian for just 3 months of sales. $250,000 Canadian. Now, I'm trying to think how much that is. I think that's about 500 million Colombian pesos. 500 million Colombian. It's probably about right. $250,000 Canadian is 500 million. So $500 million Colombian pesos for 3 months of weed sales from one shop. One shop, right? So if you could multiply this by hundreds of shops, you could see that the government would stand to get enormous amounts of revenue. And so instead of busting us and spending money, which they can't afford, and the city of Toronto admits it's going to cost them tens of millions of dollars, because in the last 6 months, About 75 shops have been raided, including 3 cannabis culture shops. 75 shops have been raided by police. 180 people have been arrested and put in jail overnight. And over 300 charges have been laid on all these people. But we are quite convinced that we will win, we will outlast them. None of us are intimidated. These things, Canadians are very much used to this kind of behavior. And so I believe that we will see the legalization we want to, because Canadians are willing to show people this is what legalization looks like, and we will simply not take anything less. And if you have to put us in jail, then that's where we will be. And so I hope it's possible where you are from that you can take these ideas and these methods that I have used, and I can answer questions to you about the specifics. I have also, if you speak to me outside, I'm here for the whole expo. I have many interesting stories about different prisons and my experiences in places. And I actually, even though I have seen some bad things in prison, by far the vast quality of my experience is very good. Let me tell you some things that I miss about prison. You know, it sounds strange. You know, my wife says, never talk like this. Because my wife had to come and visit me 81 times in 5 years in America. She would fly 2,000 miles. It took her a whole day to travel from Vancouver to the prisons in the United States. And it would take a whole day for her to go back home. So even though I say I have these nice feelings about what I did in prison, she says, you should tell them about all the time I spent flying to see you and going home and spending. And it is true, my wife spent 160 days just traveling in that 5 years. One whole day to get me, one whole day. On 81 visits, I got 81 visits, they were amazing. And that would require her to travel 162 days. That's 5.5 months. 5.5 months of her life, entire life, is just traveling to see me. And then she stayed with me for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, for 6 hours, which was wonderful. And that is 5.5 months of her life. So 11 months of her life was spent either going to prison to see me or sitting beside me in prison talking. So even though I have these nice feelings, it is very hard on the family. Revolutionaries, as a rule, they don't think of these things, the impact on the family. They figure, well, we are all in this together, so we will share this glory together. But my wife said, it's not glorious to travel 15 hours from Vancouver to see you in this prison. This is not glorious for me, right? So, but she's a brave person to come and see me all that, and very loyal. So that was a very wonderful thing about prison. But I should tell you that not everyone has the same opinion as me. But I will tell you this. I was able to study people in prison and help them a lot. I read a book every 10 days. Right? I read hundreds of books in prison, amazing books, incredible books. Since I've been out of prison, 2 years, I haven't read a single book. I'm too busy. You know, these screens, these phones, these computers, they have all my attention. And all this business and all this activity. In prison, I met these beautiful and brilliant musicians with 10 and 15, 20 years experience playing. And I loved being with these musicians, and I got them books so they could play all the songs they knew, and they were amazing. And one day they come to me and they say, Mark, we have the bass player, he went to jail. In prison, we call jail solitary, where you are all by yourself, and there is no one. It's also called a hole. Anyway, they said, our bass player is gone to the hole, and he will not be back. So we have this position for a bass player. And I love these guys, but I have no talent. And I've never played an instrument in my life. And I said, so who are you going to get? And they said, well, we want you to be the bass player. And I said, but I cannot play. They said, but you love the music, right? You love the music? Then we play this rock and roll from the 1960s, Eddie Van Halen, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, you know, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I said, yeah, I love those things. They're amazing. And they said, well, we think we can teach you to be our bass player. And we have a show in 6 weeks, and we think you will be ready with 8 songs to play with us. And I go, really? And they said, yeah. I said, with 3 hours every day, we think you will be fine. So in fact, they do. I practice outside in the yard, and that's it. When you practice with a bass, it's a big bass. So you're going like this, right? And they teach me, and I'm in that band for 3 years. Actually, it becomes my band. Because everybody is such a genius, the only person who's not a genius is me, so they say, you will be a good leader of the band, because everyone else has big ego. So you have not a big ego, so you will be in charge of this band. And it was the most beautiful time, because even though we practiced with acoustic instruments in our time, we would actually play in an electric studio. This prison was very unusual. A lot of the money that was designated for prisoners, which by the way comes from the prisoner. In America, the taxpayer pays for nothing. The money for the whole prison, except for the guards and the bad food, is paid for by the inmates. When we buy at the prison commissary, all the profits from a prison commissary are used to pay for everything in the prison. So in this prison, every 3 months, they would devote $2,000 US to this musical program. So I was astonished to find myself in a room playing an electric bass with drum kit, big soundproof room, big Marshall amps, massive amps, and we played so fucking loud. I was amazed. We were like rocking out, and then every month we would have a concert outside and play for all the inmates. And I couldn't believe it. I ended up learning 160 songs. I played 14 shows. We practiced every day. And I ended up playing songs by the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Jimi Hendrix. I can play 6 Jimi Hendrix songs, 3 Led Zeppelin songs. I can't even believe this. Right? I can't believe that I can play these things. Right? And then I understand music and how to play an instrument. Anyway, so for me, this was like an epiphany. Every day I'm playing music with these great guys, and I'm really thinking this would never happen to me if I wasn't in prison. Because actually when I got out of prison, they gave me a beautiful $3,000 Fender Precision Jazz bass guitar, and I have never touched it because I have no time. Right? Because when you're out in the world, and I believe in this revolution, it's all the time. That is all the time. Right? There's no time to be playing for 2 or 3 hours. Where would I get this time? But in prison, it was the most magical and wonderful situation. Just like all those books were magical. And there were many people I could help in prison. And one of the best stories is in April of 2014, I had 3 months to go. And the Attorney General of the United States said, we are going to let some people go. People who have been in prison for a long, long time. We are going to clear some of these people out. So he said, we will consider an application to clemency. In English, the word clemency means to get a forgiveness or an early release by the president of the country. This happens in most countries, I think, or the Attorney General. Anyway, the Attorney General said, we will try and release 1,000, maybe 5,000 people who have spent more than 10 years in jail on a sentence that is more than 20 years for a non-violent drug offense. Because in America, they put people away for a long, long time. A tremendous long time. My 5 years, by the way, I spent 5 years in the United States for sending seeds to Americans in the mail. So, I got 5 years just for sending seeds. They don't even have any drug quantity to them, right? But that got me 5 years. But I was the most short-time person there. Most people were 10, 20, 30, 40. Many people with life. Just for drugs, just for selling drugs to their friends. They would eventually get life without parole. Well, I went to this one fellow. He's a very noisy guy. He used to love the basketball players. Most of the prisoners are black men, so he's a black man. And I am the only Canadian person in this prison. There were other prisons I went to that were all immigrant prisons. One prison I was at, there were 10 Canadian people who spoke English and 2,600 Latin Americans from Mexico right down to Colombia. I'm not kidding. There were at least 100 Colombians in this prison. And we're all being deported. We're all there for drugs too, right? And most people are in some kind of cartel or some kind of thing, right? And but we're all in this American prison, and it's privately owned, it's badly run, and they spend no money on it. And all day long, all the paperwork for everything has to be done in English. But only 10 people in the whole prison speak English, right? And so when I got there, they immediately said, you work in the library doing the legal work for the prisoners because they all speak Spanish, and everything has to be done in English. And boy, that was a busy job, all day long, lineups of Hispanic men and my translator telling me what they're saying and typing it up on papers, filing it, saying it could be divorce, was child custodies, grievances against the prison, appeals. Oh, I was a busy guy. Eventually though, I get 3 people fired because they're really bad, and I'm very good with these complaints from all my Hispanic inmates. So eventually the prison says, okay, you're finished. You're going outside to pick up garbage with the Hispanic people. Because I will tell you this, generally the Hispanic people, they would do all the real work, right? Like if you're a white prisoner, you can get a job, but it's not gonna be like a Mexican or Hispanic prison. They're gonna do real work. And there's a reason for that too, is because that's also an element of control. Because even something as simple as picking up the trash, right? I would just pick up the garbage and throw it, but they would go through everything thoroughly. They would take all the things that were useful, and then they would recycle them throughout the prison, and then what they wanted to throw away, they would throw away. So, because I was their lawyer, and now I was walking beside them picking up the trash, and the prison did this deliberately to humiliate me. Ha! You're no better than they are, they said. You think you're important because you got people fired? No, you're not. So they put me there. But then the Mexican people said, Mr. Emery, you are a lawyer. You cannot be doing this. You will just walk with us and observe, and we will do the work. Right? You should not touch this sort of thing, right? And so this, anyway, that was just one of 6 prisons I was in. And they were all different. Some were maximum security. One of them was an immigrant prison where I'm one of the few people that speak English. In fact, in my whole dorm of 64 men, there are 2 televisions, and one has to be in English, and one is in Spanish. And I'm the only English speaker there, right? So I have one TV, which I never watch. And then they're watching, and they come to me all the time, Mr. Emery, can we put our soap opera on? Because half the men wanted football, and the other half wanted the soap opera. What is it? How do you say those things? Novella, television novella. Anyway, there was a regular daily Mexican programming, and a lot of people are very addicted to this. And if a football game was on at the same time, they would fight. So they would have to come to me, can we use your television to watch the football game so we don't have a fight over this program? I said, sure. But anyway, so that's the first time I met Colombians, by the way, too, in prison. Anyway, so I had these many wonderful experiences. I have hundreds and hundreds of stories. I would not ever exchange my prison experiences for anything. I really enjoy and appreciate what they have done for me. I think that it made me a better leader of men too, a leader of people. I think it's important that you experience what the most poor people or the most marginalized or the most forgotten people experience. And then you will be a good leader. You will be humble, and you will be modest, and you will appreciate everything about life that is good. And so thank you very much. Yes.
What's your favorite? Do you prefer indoor, hydroponic, organic, and what's your favorite strain?
Well, now that's the interesting thing. Whenever I travel to places, I try and smoke everything I can smoke. Indoor, outdoor, maybe good, bad. In Thailand, I would smoke the brick weed that was like compressed and hidden in the ground for 6 months. And then they also smuggled in weed from Colorado. Interestingly enough, 1 ounce of Thailand brick weed, which could make me 40 joints, and I made 40 joints, so I know that was only $25 US. But 1 gram of weed from Colorado was $30 US. Right? So I found that the weed from Colorado was very good, but it was what my body was used to. So it wasn't really that good. It was just like smoking something back home. But the Thai weed, my body had no exposure to what that weed was, so to me it was much more powerful. But the Thai people said the same thing as the woman in the expo here said, oh, they spray pesticides on it. And I thought, well, I made 40 joints, so if they really sprayed pesticides on it, I think I'd get a headache, but it was fine. So basically I smoke everything. And some countries are in really bad shape, like in Turkey. When I was in Istanbul, I met with a doctor and some professional people, and we had the tiniest little joint. And they were very nervous in Turkey the government blames the Kurdish people for growing marijuana and using it to buy weapons. This is what used to happen in Colombia too. People have cocaine or marijuana and then they are using it to buy weapons in a civil war or in some kind of conflict. Now, fortunately in Colombia, this is no longer the case, and I see huge potential here. It seems like it's a beautiful place to grow, indoor and outdoor. It's going to be a great place to grow. And all these different booths, people tell me they're getting a lot of interest in Colombians. So I will be coming back, and I will bring my wife the next time, and she will think this is a very beautiful place. This is the most beautiful place I have ever seen in Expo. There is no question. There is no place that I have seen in Expo that is very beautiful. Yes. And also, I roll big joints here, and I smoke them on the street. I go down the street. I go to the intersection outside the botanical garden. No one cares. Everyone is so relaxed. You smoke. Because at first I have a Colombian friend here, and she said, "No, we'll smoke outside. The police see you." I said, "The police don't care. They don't care." So let's walk, let's not be paranoid, let's just smoke our joints and go. So we were walking around, and just like the police here, I'm rolling joints right beside them. And they do nothing. They could not care. People say they're looking for bombs, or you have to smoke outside, but they don't care. Right? This is, in Medellin, I have found this is the same everywhere. Even in my hotel, I say, "May I borrow a lighter to light my big joint over here?" "Yeah, sure." Right? So I'm lighting a big joint and walking around. And actually, that is a very good sign, because in many cultures, you could not do that. You have to be more nervous. I don't even know if I would do that in Prague or Vienna, where they have expos, or even in my own place. I smoke anywhere, but nowhere as relaxed as Colombia. I'm walking around, and people, they're not concerned. They don't even, in Canada, we all look.
Good evening. Police are conducting raids right now in at least 2 locations downtown.
The target, the marijuana stores that opened yesterday in Montreal. Amanda Klein is on the scene. Amanda, what can you tell us?
Well, Mitsumi, I can tell you that Mark Emery, the self-proclaimed king of pot, has just been arrested moments ago. Literally was taken out of his cannabis culture store here on Mount Royal about 3 minutes ago. Now, this store opened yesterday, as many know by now. It has been the talk of the town for at least, the last 24 hours. Now, the raid itself happened at around 5:40 this afternoon, and there were about a few dozens of customers waiting to purchase marijuana. Now, we were inside, and Mark Emery came out and told customers to leave immediately because he was told that police were coming to this location by police. Police called him and told him they were going to raid this location because they were just about to raid, or just finishing a raid at least one other location. Now, police are saying there are at least 2 other locations that are also being raided this evening. So now basically what we know is that he has been arrested, and there are other locations being raided at this time. Now, this of course comes after these 8 locations opened in Montreal just yesterday, and police did say that they were planning raids either this in the next few hours or in the next few days. So we did have a sense that this might have been coming tonight, and it did. And now I'll have more details for you at 11:30 from Montreal Police and the customers of these culture cannabis locations. Mitsumi?
Okay. Thank you very much, Amanda.
In the meantime, earlier today, people were still lining up outside the stores waiting to get inside. Angela McKenzie has more on that.
Many Montrealers were willing to brave the cold, some waiting hours in line for a chance to buy some pot.
I'm glad to be here. It's a historical moment.
Yesterday, Cannabis Culture opened 6 recreational marijuana shops in Montreal.
The employees are so pleased. The response from the customers is much love, gratitude. People are saying they've been waiting forever for this. It feels safe and open. It's just the way that legalization should be.
It's a risky venture. The government is expected to table legislation legalizing cannabis in the spring. But for now, the sale of marijuana is still illegal in Canada. This Plateau resident is unhappy with the stores and asked to remain anonymous.
If I went out there with a sign that said selling joints for $5, would I be arrested? Pretty sure I'd be arrested. What is the difference?
2 more locations, including one on Queen Mary Road, didn't get to open because of permit problems.
And while there's no such thing as a municipal marijuana permit, no matter what you do, you need a municipal permit to renovate and change the structure.
Others who live and work near these stores feel they're a good thing for the city.
When you see people standing in line with minus 25 degrees, I mean, I think it's a good thing for Saint Laurent. It's going to bring business and people here, I guess.
And it's a step to legalization.
I didn't came for buying some drugs. I came to see everybody in line talking about this change.
A change that for now could very well be short-lived. Angela Mackenzie, CTV News.
And Mark Emery, known as the Prince of Pot, was released on bail this afternoon. He was one of 10 people arrested Friday evening after police raided his newly opened cannabis culture chain store in Montreal. Emery was released on several conditions, most notably a $5,000 bail. He will have to reside at his Toronto area home and is not allowed to contact the other 9 people who were arrested, including his wife, Jody. Bail was set at the Montreal court, where Emery appeared via video call from his detention center.
I believe our cause is just. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to going to court. And if they're foolish enough to sentence me to jail, then that's fine for me. But we will challenge this and the constitutionality of these laws. They're completely illegitimate. They have always been illegitimate, but now I think the citizens of Canada are fully aware that they are illegitimate. And the politicians are scrambling to try and make changes, but the changes are too slow.
If you're looking for a doctor to help you with medical marijuana anywhere in the United States, you can call us at that number. Here in Portland, it's 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you're outside of Portland, you can call our toll-free number. That's 1-888-499-THCF or 8423. 888-499-8423. Any patients you know out there that need a doctor to help them get medical marijuana, tell them to give us a call. Hey, Elvie, we're off to Columbia.
We're off to Columbia. So I expect no phone calls during the next 6 weeks.
Here is Mr. John Cornett. He's going to play some tunes for about a minute here. Thank you, John. Thank you, viewers. We'll have tape shows the next couple weeks. We'll be back live on December 11th. Help us restore him.
Bring it back.